EM ruins a wall in a house I'm working on and tries to blame it on me. Ian, me, M, should be obvious but entitled mom, GL, group leader. Context: there's this event in my church called work camp, and every year a bunch of churches full of teenagers go to a location and help the people living there renovate their house. It's pretty much just free child labor, but it's for God or something, so it's okay. This year was my first and last, and I was honestly quite excited and am disappointed with how it went. Story. So when I got to work camp, the house job I was given was an easy paint job. The EM was surprisingly nice, like most at first from what I've seen, and welcomed me and my group, around 4 kids consisting of 12 to 13-year-olds and 1 adult leader, to the home we'd be working on. We learned what we needed to do was a simple paint job and started getting materials immediately. The next couple of days, Monday, Wednesday, we worked on her house with no problems as her kids were somewhere else. And Thursday her kids came back to the house and were crazy. If I'm to be completely honest though, the kids were probably the most calm on this day. My group tried to get everything done, but it was hell with all these kids running around. In about 5 hours, 1 to 2 hours above when we were supposed to be done, we finally finished. We told the EM to not touch the walls as they were drying and to tell her kids to not do it as well. She said that wouldn't be a problem and ended up telling us that her kids would be somewhere tomorrow so nothing bad should happen. The next day started normal. I woke up and went to the house I was working at. I assumed what would happen is that we'd finish things up and be done for the day and I can finally go home. What ended up happening was the complete opposite. GL, hi M, how are you Toda? EM, my f-king walls are ruined. GL, obviously confused, I'm sorry, what? EM, my walls are ruined. GL, I'm sorry, could you please explain what you mean by that? EM, a little calmer but still pretty crazy. Someone in your group touched my f-king walls and there's fingerprints and handprints all over them. Our group went in to investigate the issue and saw that all were true. The thing was that all of this had to have happened yesterday after we left, as everything was perfect prior and we were wearing those plastic gloves when we were at her house to avoid this issue. GL, Ian, take your group outside and wait there, I have to resolve this issue. Me, okay. I was quite confused at what was happening in the moment but still decided to go ahead anyways and do what my group leader said to do. Anyways, outside my friends and I just talked for around a half hour and then got the news. GL, okay, so apparently one of you supposedly touched the walls and M is demanding to know who. We all just kind of didn't say anything as no one's did anything and our GL knew as well what was happening. GL, well then, I guess if no one comes clean the M won't let us finish her house and we got to leave then. EM, what? I demand that they come back and clean this house up. Starts sobbing for like no reason after like a minute of silence. Okay, I'm sorry, I overreacted, I didn't mean to, I'm sorry, please help, I'm sorry. GL, I'm sorry, but later today some of the other GLs will come and clean the house for you. EM, what? I'm not letting a stranger into my home? We were quite confused as we were pretty much strangers, but it's an M so I don't know what to say about this. GL, annoyed, this is what's going to have to happen, I'm sorry but there's nothing we can do about it. We just left after that as she kept yelling and got Dairy Queen. We then learned she or her kids touched the walls and tried to blame it on us. Worst part is that I was 12 to 13 at this time. Imagine going off on a bunch of 12-year-olds, excluding our group leader, who just painted your house for free. This was my final experience there and I just gave up with work camp as a whole. TLDR, crazy M rants on me after my group and I painted her house for free. Turns out the reason was because her kids messed up her walls. Disabled vet versus Vietnam vet. This happened a few weeks ago but was reminded today. Husband is 100% disabled due to his 2+ decades of military service. Part of one of the benefits of such in our state is super discounted car tags. Instead of the normal $300 for 2 years coverage, we get it for like $50. It is a nice perk. So we bought a nice car when his was totaled this year. We wanted electric and luxury, but we're trying to wait a few years. But the accident forced our hand. Registered in his and my name and put his DV tag on it. He prefers to drive my older car to work. He doesn't want the nice new car damaged. So I drive his car once or twice a week as I work from home and just need a few groceries or such. So I go to get groceries to make dinner. The odds and ends as soon as I got off work and took his new car with the DV tag. I park. I wait a few to get out as I review my list and other things. And some 70-ish-year-old man pulls up behind me, honking and screaming. He says something about the war. And I realized, oh, this is what I've been waiting for. Some vet to tell me I have stolen valor. I let him park and I get out and start to go inside the store. He chases after me. He tells me, screams at me, how he served for 4 years and in Vietnam. Also I should be ashamed to have a fake tag as I didn't serve, yeah I don't look like a fit soldier. He keeps screaming he is going to call the police for a stolen tag and how I should be ashamed. As we walk into the store, I turn around and say, "Sir, we thank you for your 4 years of service but my husband served 20 plus and earned that tag. Sorry, I borrowed his car today." You'd think that would shut him up? Nope. He follows me around the store screaming about stolen valor while on the phone with the police. They come as I'm loading groceries. I show them the title in both our names and license. Everything good. I can still hear him screaming when I walk in the store to this day. Entitled Mom Tries to Get Lifeguard Fired. This story happened over 2 years ago and it's still mind-boggling. When I was in high school, I worked a summer job as a lifeguard. Over the years I've dealt with some pretty good entitled parents who thought that the rules didn't apply to them and their children and that they could bully me because I was a teenager. This story in particular didn't happen to me, but I was present for it. Also some information, I was assistant manager of the lifeguards at the time. I was in charge of the lifeguards that day because my manager was out of town. Now on to the story. It's the middle of a Thursday afternoon. I'm not on stand at the moment. At this point I'm just walking around and cleaning things around the pool when I walk by the diving area. So for some context, our pool lets patrons swim in the deep end only if no one is going off the diving board. If someone steps up then the swimmers in the deep end have to clear out. A group of kids is playing a game of tag in the deep end when a patron steps up to the diving board. Everyone immediately exits the deep end except for one 15-year-old girl. She was on the opposite side of the deep end from the diving board and decided to swim all the way across going right in front of the diving board. When she surfaces, the lifeguard reminds her of the rule and asks her not to do it again. As the girl walks over to her friends, she flips off the lifeguard and tells her to leave her the fuck alone. At this point I was about to step in until the lifeguard calmly told her that if she continued to behave in this way then she wouldn't be allowed in the pool for the rest of the day. After seeing this I very quickly realized that the lifeguard was more than capable of handling herself in this situation. A few hours later, the lifeguard is back at the deep end stand and the same girl swims right in front of the diving board while someone is going off it. The lifeguard again tells her not to swim in front of the diving board when it's being used. At this point the girl says to her friends, right in front of the lifeguard, "This bitch won't leave me alone." At this point the lifeguard tells her to get out of the pool, and that she's done for the day. The girl gets out of the pool and runs to her mom and is bawling. She's going on about how the lifeguard is targeting her. At this point EM steps in. She demands to see the manager. The lifeguard points me out to EM. EM walks up to me and asks if I'm the manager. I tell her that I'm the assistant manager, but right now I'm the acting manager because our manager is on vacation. EM goes on about how her daughter is being singled out by the lifeguard. I tell her that this isn't true since I watched the whole thing go down. I tell her that her daughter was warned to stop behaving in this manner, but she continued. She demanded that I have the lifeguard apologize for bullying her daughter. I tell her that I'm not going to make an employee apologize for doing their job. At this point EM is furious. She demands to see the owner of the pool. I go and find the owner in his office and explain the situation. He comes outside, and EM demands that he fire the lifeguard. Owner waits for her to finish and then asks if she wants him to check the security cameras. She happily agrees. At this point, EM has a smug look on her face, and the daughter is white as a ghost as she knows she's about to be exposed. Owner asks me what time the incidents took place. I tell him first one was around 1:40 and the second one was around 3:45. He finds both interactions and shows EM that her daughter was clearly lying. At this point EM isn't backing down. She demands that he fire the lifeguard for making her daughter cry. She says that if the lifeguard isn't gone by Monday, she's going to cancel her membership to the pool. Owner says that he's not going to fire her, and he reminds her that she has already paid her membership for the summer, and that it's non-refundable. Then storms off. Monday comes around and that same lifeguard was working an 8-hour shift that day. Stayed at the pool all day just to see if the owner would fire her. Spoiler alert, he didn't fire her. After Monday, and her daughter still came to the pool for the rest of the summer. The next summer, that lifeguard was the head manager of the lifeguards at the pool. Apparently and her daughter still belong to the pool. Preschool teacher called racist. So I'm currently a preschool teacher that works at a pretty prestigious preschool. Most of the time the parents are amazing. They are all doctors, lawyers, and etc., so they care about education and support us in teaching their children. Well, this was about a student who was around 4 years old. He has been pretty violent and anything we did only resulted in him becoming more violent. We tried every method, so our director brought back these behavior reports that we would give to parents if they misbehaved. This was after multiple meetings with the child's parents. This all started when I was closing up a room. The child, let's call him John, had a report about him hitting another child with a bat. I didn't see it happen, I only had the report and was closing the room, meaning I was waiting for all the children to leave since their teacher left earlier. John's dad gets there and I hand him the paper and he has to sign it to show that he acknowledges his child's behavior and understands what happened. John's dad is a Middle Eastern immigrant and doesn't speak much English. So he tells me no to signing the paper and says he is going to call his wife. I nod and wait. His mom has always been cordial with me and speaks English fluently. So he gives me his phone to talk to her. Mind you, I still have a class of 7 kids playing all through this. I agree, take the phone and explain the situation. It went a little bit like this. OP, hi. Unfortunately, John got into a fight with a friend and took a bat and swung it at the friend's head. When asked why he did this, he responded with, "He called me Johnny." He was asked to apologize and he refused. Well, did the other child get punished? OP, the other friend apologized for the nickname, but we wanted to focus on the use of violence to express feelings. Do you understand that my son comes to school and cries that he is bullied every single day? What do you do for him? You target him? OP, ma'am, I am trying to tell you your child took a bat and swung it at another child's head, which isn't acceptable behavior. Goes off complaining about the school and his main teacher. OP, I'm so sorry you feel like that. We really do try to give every child a safe space to thrive and learn. I don't appreciate your attitude with me. You are talking to me like a child. OP, ma'am, I mean no disrespect. I am describing your child's actions and trying to get you and your husband to see that John has resorted to violence every time he is faced with adversity. We can only do so much at the school and we want the parents to help with the continuation of discipline at home. If John cannot be safe in the school, he will have to be separated for the safety of other. It is protocol. This was answering her question on why he had to sit out. That whole school, and you are targeting my child? You are targeting us because we are Muslim. You're a racist? This is why I pulling my child from your school. OP, ma'am, I was born and raised Muslim, and your child hit a kid darker than him. This isn't a race issue and I feel incredibly disrespected with this conversation. I cannot continue this. I appreciate your time and I hope John can thrive and learn at the new preschool. I handed the phone back to the dad. He refused to sign it. I saw her for a month after due to our cancellation policy. She never said anything to me. I can't even understand how you can treat someone who takes care of your kid like that. I put all my energy into my kids at work. I never let it show, but it's hard not to take it personally. I told my director. I don't know what happened after, but like I said, I never spoke to her again. Evil Mama Bear and the Bell. Since I won't have an update until my sister goes to court against our mother for the RO, I'll go back to posting old stories here and there. This one is a bit less specific on age as it happened multiple times in my teens until I started getting older and bigger. But whenever my mother got sick or hurt herself, she'd become very overdramatic about it and would just lay in bed and act like she was more hurt or sick than she really was. She'd ring this little white ceramic bell that was loud enough to hear throughout most of the house when rang hard enough. And she expected me to be in her room as soon as she started ringing, and no matter how soon I got there, it was never fast enough. She'd berate me on taking so long, then would say what she wanted. My only relief was she'd still drink a lot laying in bed and also took a lot of sleeping pills like Valium and just passed out. but she'd only get up to either use the bathroom or change clothes. Other than that, she'd just lay in bed and either sleep or expect the world to revolve around her. Once when I was out with my dad and sister while my mother was sick, I left Dad's old camcorder out recording on a table while we were away just to see what would happen. My mother woke up and started ringing that stupid bell like mad. And she must have rang it for about 15 minutes before she finally realized no one was coming. So she started yelling. And that eventually turned to crying. Almost like a toddler because she was demanding something to drink, and when no one came she cried several times. It was a solid 2 hours of this before she finally got up and fed herself, then was back to sleep by the time we got home. Anytime my mother was sick she made me miserable by ringing that bell. But she started doing it less when I was 14 because I was getting bigger and would no longer let her hit me or push me around as much. Eventually though, in a random thought of pettiness, I took the bell from the cupboard she usually kept it in and took it to a friend's house. And together we walked out to a random forested area and shot that bell to little pieces with his BB gun. Then I smashed what was left of it with a hammer on a rock. The next time my mother got sick she tried to find the bell, then had a literal tantrum when it was nowhere to be found. I never once fessed up to destroying it and acted completely clueless about where it was. She never got another one while I was still living with her. I don't know if she got one after, but I doubt it since she never really made my sister do much of anything, let alone cater to her wants and needs.